My name is David, I'm 77, and my workday begins when most of my peers are still rolling over in their warm beds. I check the oil level, wipe the mirrors, and launch an app. The sound of a new order notification is now my main rhythm. And once upon a time, the rhythm was completely different. In the 1960s, I was a drummer. I kept my drums right next to my bed so that when I opened my eyes, I would immediately grab the sticks. My parents were crazy about the noise, but to me it was the music of freedom. We were flower children, hippies who believed that money was dirt and life was only here and now. I always felt too young to think about retirement. You know, it's a trap. You think you have at least 100 more years to grow up. I've worked as a waiter, driven catering trucks, worked in cable television. I was never looking for a career. I was looking for a way to pay the bills and buy new drum cymbals. Even when I went into medicine and healing, it wasn't about saving. I was helping people. I was living life to the fullest. At the height of my practice, I was making about $60,000. I felt like I was rich. I could afford anything I wanted, but life as a single parent is an obstacle course. After my divorce, I was left with my kids on my own. No help, no child support, just me and my 4 jobs at once. 7 days a week. No days off, no vacations. I worked myself to the bone to make sure they had sneakers, textbooks, and food on the table. That was when I first started dipping into my 401k. Every time something bad happened, a broken refrigerator, a sick child, or getting laid off, I told myself, it's okay, I'll make up for it later. But the later never came. Every time I took money from there, I was stealing from myself, the 77-year-old man who now has to count cents at the gas station. Today, I look at the young people who get into my taxi and I want to shout at them, don't be as stupid as I was. I had a degree in mathematics, you know. I could calculate any equation, but I couldn't calculate my own old age. I panicked when the market fell. I sold stocks at the worst possible moment. I made one mistake after another. And now here I am, driving a Mazda 6, trying to make another insurance payment. My name is David, I'm 77, and my workday begins when most of my peers are still rolling over in their warm beds. I check the oil level, wipe the mirrors, and launch an app. The sound of a new order notification is now my main rhythm. And once upon a time, the rhythm was completely different. In the 1960s, I was a drummer. I kept my drums right next to my bed so that when I opened my eyes, I would immediately grab the sticks. My parents were crazy about the noise, but to me it was the music of freedom. We were flower children, hippies who believed that money was dirt and life was only here and now. I always felt too young to think about retirement. You know, it's a trap. You think you have at least 100 more years to grow up. I've worked as a waiter, driven catering trucks, worked in cable television. I was never looking for a career. I was looking for a way to pay the bills and buy new drum cymbals. Even when I went into medicine and healing, it wasn't about saving. I was helping people. I was living life to the fullest. At the height of my practice, I was making about $60,000. I felt like I was rich. I could afford anything I wanted, but life as a single parent is an obstacle course. After my divorce, I was left with my kids on my own. No help, no child support, just me and my 4 jobs at once. 7 days a week. No days off, no vacations. I worked myself to the bone to make sure they had sneakers, textbooks, and food on the table. That was when I first started dipping into my 401k. Every time something bad happened, a broken refrigerator, a sick child, or getting laid off, I told myself, it's okay, I'll make up for it later. But the later never came. Every time I took money from there, I was stealing from myself, the 77-year-old man who now has to count cents at the gas station. Today, I look at the young people who get into my taxi and I want to shout at them, don't be as stupid as I was. I had a degree in mathematics, you know. I could calculate any equation, but I couldn't calculate my own old age. I panicked when the market fell. I sold stocks at the worst possible moment. I made one mistake after another. And now here I am, driving a Mazda 6, trying to make another insurance payment. Who would have thought that at 77 years old I would be discussing artificial intelligence or learning Kiswahili through an app on my phone? Yes, I do. I don't want to be that old man grumbling about those computers of yours. I'm learning. I'm currently working on my own website. I want to take my knowledge of therapy and psychology online. The world has changed, and if you don't move with it, you're left on the side of the road like a broken down truck. The digital age is both a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, apps give me a job. On the other, they make our lives so mechanical. I miss the days when people talked to each other instead of staring at screens. But you know what's strange? My passengers often start talking to me. Maybe they see in me the grandfather they miss. For 30 minutes, I become their psychologist, advisor, and listener. I get feedback, great conversation, wise driver. It warms my soul. It makes me feel like I'm still human, not just a function of getting from point A to point B. I've also become interested in artificial intelligence. It's scary, but it's also exciting. I think about how to use this technology for healing. Maybe I can create something that will help people cope with their pain, even after I'm gone. I consider myself a lifelong learner. It's what keeps me young. My body may be failing, my knee is creaking, my eyesight is failing, but my brain still wants to know how the world works. But let's be honest, working at 80 is a challenge. It's not the active recreation they write about in retirement brochures. It's a struggle. It's a need to control myself, even when I want to just give up and cry. But I look at my friends who are retired and just sitting in front of the TV. They fade away before my eyes. Work gives me purpose. It forces me to wash my face, shave, put on a clean shirt, and go out to meet people. It's my way of saying to death, not today, honey. I still have a shift at Uber. If I could go back and meet that guy with the drumsticks, what would I tell him? I wouldn't tell him to stop playing rock and roll. I wouldn't tell him to be a boring accountant. I would just say, son, save $25 a month. Just do it. Don't touch it. Let it grow while you enjoy life. And I would also tell him not to wait until the end of your life to complete your wish list. Do what you love while you still have the strength to do it. Because one day you'll wake up and realize that the list is still long, and you only have enough strength to get to your car. I think about death a lot. It's natural at my age, but I don't fear it as much as I used to. When you've lived a full life, full of both great successes and shameful failures, you start to appreciate the fact that you're still here. Every day is a gift, even if this gift is wrapped in a form of exhausting work. I have seen many of my friends not live to see me. They have gone too soon. So, I am grateful for my wrinkles, for my backache, for every gray hair. They are signs that I am still in the game. My Mazda 6 is my modern steed. We have covered many miles. When I drop off the last passenger and return home to an empty house, I feel a strange mixture of fatigue and satisfaction. I have earned my money. I have not asked anyone for anything. I have maintained my independence. And that is probably the most important thing for a man at any age, to know that you can take care of yourself. Life is not a straight line. It is an improvisation, like in jazz. You may get out of rhythm, you may play a wrong note, but the main thing is not to stop the music. As long as I can keep pressing the gas pedal, as long as I can learn something new, I will continue my improvisation. And when it comes time for the final chord, I want it to be loud and confident. Don't feel sorry for me. I have lived an incredible life, and even now, at 77, I still find reasons to smile. Even if that smile is addressed to the navigator who once again led me along a shorter path. Working for Uber makes you more than just a driver, you become a story hunter. Sometimes I feel like my car is a mobile confession booth. People tell a stranger behind the wheel things they would never tell their family. One day, around 2 a.m., I picked up a young man outside a hospital. He got into the back seat, and the silence was so heavy that I could feel it physically. I don't usually insist, but here I just said, "Son, no matter what happens, the night always ends with dawn." He burst into tears. It turned out that he had just become a father, but his own mother had died at the same hour in another ward of the same hospital. We drove for 40 minutes, and he talked about the cycle of life, about fear and love. When he got out, he shook my hand so tightly, as if I were his last connection to reality. At such moments, I forget about the fatigue in my back. I understand that I'm not just here for the money, I'm here to witness human life. There was another story, a funny one. I was giving a ride to a group of girls who were going to a party. They looked at me like I was a museum piece. One of them asked, "Grandpa, how did you have fun without TikTok in your day?" I smiled, took out my old record player. Yes, I still carry it with me, and played them a recording of my drum solo from 1974. The car fell dead silent, and then they started screaming with delight. The rest of the way we talked about Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix. They left me a $20 tip and wrote in their reviews, "This driver is cooler than all of us put together. It gives me strength. I'm not just a grandpa behind the wheel. I'm a person with a background they can't even imagine. But there are also difficult changes." I once gave a ride to a man my age. He was wearing an expensive suit, coming from a fancy restaurant. He kept complaining about the service, the food, how the world is going to hell, when he found out how old I was. He looked at me with such pity that I wanted to drop him off in the middle of the highway. "It's so sad that you have to do this," he said. I looked at him in the mirror and said, "Sad is when you have money but you've lost interest in life. I have to work, but I still see beauty in the people around me. What do you see?" He fell silent for the rest of the ride. And you know what? I wouldn't trade places with him for all his millions. Aging is like owning a very old car that is no longer being produced. There are no spare parts, the oil leaks, and the engine sometimes sneezes at the most inopportune moment. My knees are my barometer. If they are spinning in the morning, it means that there will be rain and there will be a lot of orders. I have learned to negotiate with my body. I tell it, "Listen, buddy, let's work another 4 hours, and in the evening I will buy you that expensive horse chestnut ointment, and we will watch National Geographic." And it agrees. For now, many people ask me if I am not ashamed to work at gatherings with young people at the age of 77. Shame. Shame is stealing. Shame is sitting on the neck of children who are barely making ends meet themselves. I feel incredibly proud that I am autonomous. My Mazda is my island of independence. When I am behind the wheel, I am the captain of my ship. I decide when to go out to sea and when to drop anchor. It's the same feeling I had on stage with the drums. It's control over my own rhythm. Sometimes I become a rebel. For example, when I see the system trying to write me off. When insurance companies raise premiums just because of the date on my passport, I don't give up. I call, I argue, I prove that my driving experience is an asset, not a risk. I learned to use AI to write complaints and requests. You should see the look on their faces when they get a perfectly composed legal letter from a 77-year-old taxi driver. It's my little rock and roll against a system that wants us to just quietly disappear. I often think of my mother. She grew up in poverty and always said, "Never let poverty steal your dignity." She could patch an old coat so that it looked like new. I do the same with my life. I patch up my financial holes with work, but I do it with my head held high. I am not a victim of circumstances, I am an active player. And as long as my hands hold the wheel and my brain is able to learn at least one word of Kiswahili a day, I will stay in the game. Old age is not about the number of years, it is about giving up the fight. And I am not going to give up. It's evening now, and I'm returning to my little house. The sun is setting, painting the sky the same colors I saw in California in '67. You know, despite everything, I'm a happy person. Yes, I don't have millions. Yes, I don't have a carefree retirement on the beach. But I have memories that make my chest feel warm. I have children who respect me for never giving up. And I have tomorrow. I look at my to-do list on the refrigerator. It says to wash the car, figure out the plugin for the website, review the verbs in Duolingo. This is not a list of dying, it's an offensive plan. I've realized the main thing, we're not afraid of old age itself, but of the loss of meaning. My work gives me that meaning. It makes me part of the flow of life, not a dry branch on the shore. If you're young now, please hear me out. Don't put off life, but don't forget about the old man you'll become. He'll come to you one day, and you'll want him to be grateful, not to curse you for your carelessness. Invest in knowledge as diligently as you do in money. Money may depreciate, the bank may burst, but what you know and can do, no one can take away. My degree in mathematics helps me calculate fuel costs, and my experience as a drummer helps me keep pace in this crazy world. I put the car in the garage. Tomorrow will be a new day. There will be more orders, more interesting people, more challenges. Maybe tomorrow I'll meet someone whose life my word will change. Or I'll just drive someone home in safety and comfort. And that will be a good day. I close my eyes and hear a slight ringing in my ears. It's not pressure. It's the echo of those same drums. The rhythm continues. The show goes on. And I still have a few aces up my sleeve that this world doesn't even know about. See you on the roads, friends. Life is a long journey, and I'm not about to get out of the car just yet.